With the incoming Tracer buff, you will be seeing this timeless bombshell in many more of your ranked games. If you start now, mastering Tracer can potentially be worth hundreds or even thousands of SR. Hi, I'm Coach Mills, and in this guide, I'm going to be breaking down Tracer's fundamentals and how to win more 1v1s. Let's systematically break down everything you need to be thinking about when playing Tracer so that you can easily connect them to the larger concepts. Do you want to prepare yourself for the next meta by learning new characters such as Tracer and much more? Come give our website a shot. GameLeap.com has the largest collection of guides over every hero, each handcrafted by a GM player. We have everything you need in order to improve as a player, rank up, and get that sweet SR. What are you waiting for? Come check us out in the links down below. The first thing you need to understand is accuracy. So as your accuracy on Tracer goes up, so will your lethality. Practicing your aim on Tracer can not only make you more lethal, but it opens up tons of possibilities for how much you can get done per second on Tracer. Every single move you make becomes that much cleaner and that much more impactful if your lethality is increased. The amount of duels you can win also skyrocket. So make it a point when playing Tracer to practice your tracking and really grind it. On Tracer specifically, timing matters immensely. If you can get your aim to a point where you can easily track the enemy, often you can lethal people before they have time to react. I'm going to explain this concept more later, but let's move on to the next topic, movement. Movement's extremely interesting when playing Tracer because movement is something that you do very often. Tracer's a highly mobile character, and not only is she highly mobile, but she can reposition herself on a whim. Learning how to move as Tracer and how it aids or hurts you can really help you in different matchups. Something that you have to often think about when moving is how does it affect your aim. When the enemy team don't know you're there, or when they can't easily burst you down, you want to make your movement very stagnant in a way that allows you to maximize your aim. You need to know the difference between things you need to actively avoid and things that you can easily fight. Knowing when it is correct to move and when it's not correct to move is something you need to learn as Tracer. Let me give you this example to help you understand. When playing against a Zen can burst you down, sure, but if the enemy Zen doesn't know that you're coming onto him, you don't have to make your movement sporadic. There are windows of time with specifically Tracer where you can focus on doing damage over trying to actively dodge the enemy team's damage yourself. Now this can change depending on the matchup you're up against. So against something like a Hanzo or a McCree, where they're in a duel with you, your movement really matters here. Prioritizing movement might be the only way where you win this duel. Because a Hanzo could easily headshot you and insta-kill you, if you stagger your movements just to delay the time frame in order for you to get your abilities back and really finish the kill off on Hanzo, that could be the difference between winning a duel and losing a duel. In summary, think about how your own movement affects your ability to aim and weigh that against the need to dodge the enemy team's abilities and damage. It's a constant balance with Tracer where you want to maximize damage, but at the same time not get punished and stall time for your abilities to come back online. For the next Tracer fundamental, we're going to be talking about ability management. Learning how to use your abilities in a tempo can be one of the things that's the hardest to learn on Tracer. Tracer is one of those heroes that really benefits from learning the ins and outs of every hero in the game. Understanding the cooldown on McCree's flash, or just how long it takes for Hanzo to knock an arrow into his bow. Every single bit of information can really help you maximize ability management. The amount of time that you can stand out in the open without taking damage or taking minimal damage before you have to use another blink is something that can be so minuscule and so different depending on the situation that only playing Tracer many hours will you really master ability management. You also want to have a certain amount of abilities for retreating or doubling down. Finding opportunities to get picks with Tracer or using your abilities to retreat on the dime is something that you need to learn on Tracer as well. Trying to get value out of every single blink or recall is something that even the highest level Tracers do. Ability management will really lead into one of the big concepts I talk about later, which is trading resources for impact. Before we move on to that, let's move on to our next fundamental, pulse bomb accuracy. Typically, a lot of things about Tracer you can practice in-game and have the best results. Unlike those things, pulse bombs are not something that you could practice very easily while actually playing games. There are several reasons for this, but the biggest reason is the amount of pulse bombs. Throughout a game on Tracer, depending on the length of the game, you might get anywhere between 10 and 25 pulse bombs off in a single game. Now, if you practice in a training room, you can easily go through hundreds or thousands of pulse bombs in a couple hours. So in that way, maximizing how many pulse bombs you get to practice is something that you could specifically do in training. So setting up a training room with bots in order to practice pulse bombs is definitely a way where you can get the max amount of playtime and really have strong impact in the amount of time you put in to practicing this specific skill. Learn your blink distance, practice timing. There are different types of blink pulse bombs, and it kind of depends on the situation. Blinking to the left or right of an opponent while they're moving left and right can make it so it's really easy to pulse bomb them, because to you it looks like a straight line. When they're moving left and right and you're on the left or the right side of them, it's often a straight line. Also, if the enemy is backing up or standing still, sometimes blinking directly behind them can give you the time to line up a pulse bomb. Also, deciding what you want to pulse bomb is something that's extremely important. Pulse bombing bigger targets like tanks are way more consistent. However, they usually don't have the impact that you always want them to. Pulse bombing a support or a DPS is almost always going to guarantee you a kill. This is a way to easily win the duel. Being able to win a duel at the start of the fight can usually snowball into winning the entire fight, especially if you use really little resources in order to get that pick in the first place. This is the risk versus reward aspect of using a pulse bomb. Sometimes it's more worth it to go for the riskier play on a squishier target, while other times, if you could see an opportunity to actually guarantee a kill on a tank with your pulse bomb, it's a much more reliable source of damage. Really weigh this risk versus reward and try to decide what is worth going on the pulse bomb, and also how confident are you're going to hit your pulse bombs. The more you practice sticking pulse bombs, the more confident you'll be, and the more you can guarantee value out of each and every one of your pulse bombs in your games, which leads to more teamfight wins and more SR gained. Moving away from fundamentals and onto more generalized things about Tracer that really help you in your matchups. There are a lot of different playstyles with Tracer. The playstyle that you pick in every single situation could swap up from game to game or second to second. Sometimes dueling DPS can be an easy way to win team fights. If you take a duel with a DPS and you win it, it takes away the enemy team's source of damage and can often snowball, where you can get healed up, you can get your abilities again, and go back without having to risk death because the enemy team's DPS is not there to punish you. Now, there are other playstyles you can adopt with Tracer. Trying to pick the supports is another one that is extremely powerful depending on the enemy team's support lineup. You have to decide for yourself whether or not the enemy team support lineup is something that's even worth diveable and how the enemy team is playing around them. Or whittling down tanks and trying to build up your pulse bomb and trying to do a lot of damage and poke to the enemy team's take line. Sometimes you need to swap between these playstyles, and deciding which playstyle is the best for the given situation can definitely win you more team fights. Moving on to the next topic, situational awareness is a big one, and this will lead us into our big core topics. Situational awareness is using all your senses to know who is around you. When you get out of a recall, are you in danger or are you safe? When blinking through the enemy team, who's going to look at you and how long you have in order you have to blink? Situational awareness is a combination of many things, including ability management and reading the situation. Often, to become really good at situational awareness, you need to be thinking many moves in advance. Blinking past a McCree and using your recall, sometimes you have no cues on what abilities he used. You have to read his movements and read how he's playing and try to figure out exactly what the situation is. Mastering situational awareness will be one of the last things you master on Tracer. Once you do this, you can really start to scrape at the true power of what Tracer can do. Now, here's some important things to think about when trying to win 1v1s or have high impact on Tracer. You really need to read the situation. When do you have an advantage? Let's say you're up against a McCree. When's an example of you having an advantage? Maybe you can get the jump on him with a surprise factor and do some damage to him. Maybe you can bait his flashbang. Maybe he already used his flashbang. When the enemy team has already expended resources and you still have yours, that's called an ability advantage. Now, there's other things that you can keep in mind, like positional advantages. Maybe you're on the high ground and they're on the low ground. Or health advantages. Maybe the enemy McCree is already at half and you're at full health. Also, you need to be thinking about how many resources do you need to use to engage X person. Do you need to blink 2 times in order to get close enough to that McCree to do damage to him? By that time, will he have his flashbang back? You need to be thinking about everything constantly on Tracer. So much information all at once. However, this is the number one thing that I need to emphasize. I talked about it before and I said I would get back to it. This is trading your resources for impact. Every blink, every recall, every bullet in your gun needs to be used with intent to have impact. You use all 3 of your blinks and a recall and you get no picks and do hardly any damage, you got almost no impact. Don't just blink mindlessly on the enemy team. Don't waste abilities on things that aren't actually getting impact. Trade every single one of your abilities for impact. To help you along with this, try to use your team for value. Way too often I see tracers going into the enemy team's backline and causing a lot of havoc, but your teammates are still grouping in spawn and not pushing the objective. You really need to be playing with your teammates and going in when they engage. That cross pressure can really make you have a lot more space on Tracer and turns a lot of your pushes into picks. If you engage when your teammates aren't ready to engage, Often you're going to end up in a 2v, 3v, 4v scenario where you'll run out of blinks and get focused down, where you'll not be able to have any impact, or even worse, get picked and become a liability for your team. Adapt to your teammates' play patterns and don't play overly aggressive just because you're trying to hard carry a team. This is the paradigm of a patient tracer versus a proactive tracer. Sometimes it's correct to be proactive, but it's not worth it at the risk of getting punished. At the same time, a patient tracer can still get value if they wait for the right opportunity to strike. Definitely trying to practice and learn when to be patient versus when to be proactive as tracer. Being able to flip this passivity for aggression during an opportunity on a dime, let's say you're on against a giant nade and you want to switch from passive to aggressive, is something that a tracer needs to learn in order to become a monster on the hero. Now finally, I want to talk about counters versus easy matchups. So this is just something that you should really be thinking about. This will really help you in the 1v1 matchup, and it's something that you should constantly be learning. So as for counters, I'm not going to go into specific characters. There are many that are pretty obvious, but let me go over some really key concepts that can help you understand what is a counter and what is not a counter. CC, one-shots, and vision advantage can be hard counters for Tracer. Tracer's biggest weakness is that she's extremely fragile. So things like CC can really stop her in her tracks and focus her down. Her fast movement allows her to stay away from a lot of things, but due to the power of CC, often all they need to do is hit one ability and you're done. CC'd abilities are often a counter to Tracer, and it should be your first priority to make sure that the CC abilities are either baited out or not in use. Make sure to bait out or play outside the range of enemy CC in order to get value against these counters. Moving further from that, one-shots are another counter to Tracer. Even due to your fast movement, one-tap abilities that allow you to just insta-die are things you need to be extra cautious of. Widow headshots, Kree headshot when you even take slight damage, or a Hanzo headshot are things that can one-shot you. These are examples of things that I talked about before, where your movement is priority number one, but often you shouldn't engage these enemies unless you can easily take them down using all your abilities. Often you don't want to give the enemy even a chance to one-shot you or react to you. This involves getting really fast into the enemy team's face, doing a lot of damage, and using your blinks to barely stay out of their line of sight until you finish them off. And lastly, vision. Things like Widow's Sight and Hanzo's Storm Arrow. Knowing where you are and knowing where you're coming from as Tracer is something that can become extremely problematic for you. Any sort of focus fire or burst fire from a team will easily kill a Tracer, so you're really counting on that unpredictability and that rapid movement in order to keep you alive. If people can see you, they can focus you down. So be cautious with abilities like this and really take mind or you can be seen through walls. Now for the last topic, let's move on to easy matchups. Now these are matchups against things that have a weak movement, no CC, one shot, or vision, or an easy to hit hitbox. Weak movement, think things like Zenyatta, who have no way to run away from you, and the only way they can win the matchup against you is by hitting extremely hard to hit shots on Zen. At the same time, if you play that matchup correctly, unless the Zenyatta gets peel, he'll hardly have any window to do damage to you. You can do damage in chunks to Zenyatta, blinking every time he focuses you, in order to kill him before he ever has a true chance to focus you down. Things that have no counters to you, things that have no CC, one-shots, or vision. Honestly, a lone Winston is no problem for a Tracer. Not only can he not burst you down, but he can never catch you if you're running away from him. You can easily do shots to his head or body and build up your pulse bomb. He has no way to stop you, and he has no way to know where you're going if you just want to run and hide. This is an easy matchup for you to abuse, and when you want to, you can easily disengage. Lastly, an easy hitbox. Things that have an extremely easy hitbox for you to clip can allow for some easy matchups. Things like Orisa are something that you can really get in her face and do a ton of damage to. Because of her giant hitbox, you can get insane damage into her head. Anyways, I hope all these core concepts when combined together can really help you understand the fundamentals of Tracer and allow you to win more 1v1s. I know it's a lot of information to take in, but Tracer is an extremely complex character. Learning her overnight is impossible, but if you start now, you can definitely get the jump up on your competition and really gain that SR for when Tracer gets that big buff coming soon. I hope this guide has been extremely helpful for you. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments down below. Until next time. Are you struggling to learn Genji, Tracer, or any other character in this game? Don't worry, we got you covered. GameLeap.com has the largest collections of videos that stem from tips and tricks to in-depth guides created by GM players in order to help you improve at Overwatch. Not only that, but we have advanced concept videos that can help you build your fundamentals so that you can thrive for many seasons to come. We are so confident that our product will help you that we offer a 10-day money-back guarantee. Come check us out risk-free in the links down below.